This is WROC TV, Channel 8. The team to watch: Liz Vega, Dwayne Brozek, meteorologist Kevin Williams with weather, and sports with J.C. DeLass. This is Channel 8 Eyewitness News.
Good evening. Which way will the Budget Act swing?
That is the question the Rochester School Board is moving closer to answering tonight, following a public hearing at Franklin High School. Eyewitness News reporter Vita Beasley was there and files this report.
Tonight, with spectators sporting costumes and waving signs.
The next time you see a 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old girl, Brenda, think about your budget.
But it was no fun and games for kids and parents concerned over proposed cuts in art, music, Spanish, and physical education.
If the cuts go into effect for School 58, where my daughter goes to kindergarten, and it becomes a half-day kindergarten, we're moving.
As without the counselors or the social workers or the teachers, where will we go? Kids going to be dropping out of school.
School Superintendent Manuel Rivera, meeting with board members, recommended immediate action on nearly half of the $8.5 million package of proposed cuts.
And coming out of central office, approximately $1.7 million. There were some reductions at the school site level that have been proposed to the tune of approximately $838,000. And then there are other measures that didn't necessarily impact staff.
Staff cuts are what prompted the Rochester Administrators Union to propose a 0% pay hike as part of the contract they are currently negotiating with the board.
If two things happen. Number one, the Teachers Association roll back or give back its wage increase from its last contract. And number two, that the board restore the cuts that they're proposing to make, totaling $8.5 million.
The board votes Thursday at noon on the first line of cuts. Whether the board takes action on Thursday or Monday through a formal resolution, layoff letters will go out immediately. In Rochester, Vita Beasley, Channel 8 Eyewitness News.
And Manuel Rivera warns budget cuts in the Rochester School District could continue well into the future. He says based on today's announcement by Governor Cuomo, the district isn't likely to see an increase in state aid.
The governor has unveiled his budget plan for the next fiscal year, which begins in April, and as Governor Cuomo put it, a lot of it will pain a lot of people. The $56.6 billion spending plan calls for cuts in welfare and Medicaid totaling more than $1 billion. It also calls for a cut in the state workforce by 6,200 people, 4,000 through layoffs. And aid to schools stands to lose another $170 million. Cuomo called on the legislature to enact his budget.
But for 9 years, we have had to compromise by agreeing to higher spending by the legislature. That game has to end. You can't do it again this year.
The Cuomo budget plan also calls for new fees totaling more than $120 million.
Cuomo's budget does provide funding for a number of projects for the Rochester area. $1.6 million would be earmarked for repairs to Route 490 over South Avenue. $5.4 million for bridge repair and replacement in Batavia, Gates, Ogden, and Victor. $1.5 million for hazardous waste cleanup in Monroe County. And the budget will allow for the Willard Psychiatric Center in Seneca County to remain open for another year.
But despite that, some state lawmakers are concerned about the proposed cuts, particularly those in education. That was one question posed by the state senator whose area includes Ontario and Seneca counties.
I'm not particularly pleased with the cut in school aid at this point, but it's difficult to know what those cuts are really going to be. The governor talked about $240 million being cut out of the school budget for the school years, but until we actually see what are called the Article 7 bills, the distribution of that allocation back to the districts, we really don't know how that's going to impact on the district.
The senator added that Cuomo's cry of no new taxes is somewhat deceiving because other fees may be increased.
The state of the economy was also the subject of a report released today by the National Urban League. The State of Black America stressed the need for programs to help bridge the gap between blacks and whites. Eyewitness News reporter Robin DeWind has local reaction.
12 million people are out of work, poverty is on the rise, and violence in our city has escalated to an all-time high.
This recession has cut a wide path of pain and suffering across the land.
John Jacob, the president of the National Urban League, says the recession has hit all of us, but it has left black Americans in a deep depression. Today, he released the State of Black America report. It stresses ways the nation can move past its financial straits. It suggests putting money towards programs that will get people working again.
That means heavy investment in job-creating infrastructure programs. It means heavy targeted investments in educating our children, training our workforce, and retraining our people for a high-tech world.
Members of the Urban League of Rochester watched today's news conference by simulcast. William Johnson says the nation and the Rochester community need to bridge the gap between blacks and whites. He says Rochester is a city that is 40% minority, but he adds white males still hold power in the business sector as well as county government.
And power is not shared by females, surely is not shared with poor people, people of color. So I think that these are the kind of polarization signs that we have to address. If, as a community, we're going to move forward on some of these very important issues.
He believes the community must focus on finding ways to stop the violence on our streets. Opening up job opportunities is the first step towards healing the economy.
Rochester's immunity from hard times is about to come to a close. Not that it's something that I wish, but I think it's unavoidable. And I think that as a community, we're going to now have to determine how to do things in a different way.